8, doing our regular weekly Ask Me Anything. I go live every Friday at 9 a.m. Arizona time. John goes live every Monday at 9:30 a.m. Arizona time. We're actually live in YouTube and in our Facebook group, which is pretty cool. So I've actually had a couple people ask me what we use for live streaming. We use Restream.io. And that's not an endorsement, incidentally, because I'm only kind of medium happy with them. So we were using BeLive. And also not an endorsement because we migrated away. But I did want to mention for any of you AppSumo junkies out there, there is a BeLive deal that's probably worth buying. Like I think BeLive was good enough as far as I'm concerned. And check this out. So they just loaded up. It's funny, it kind of pissed me off because I just bought an annual subscription. But BeLive just went live on AppSumo and you get lifetime access for $60. So if you have any interest in doing live streams or going live yourself, I think this is a really good kind of gateway tool. It wasn't my favorite. I ended up moving over to Restream, but it was good enough, especially to cut your teeth on. And I think this is a pretty stellar deal. Speaking of, if you're not on AppSumo, you got to go subscribe. It's insane what you get on some of these deals. So AppSumo, if you're not familiar with, is it's kind of like a first mover subscription where they put off, mostly software products, but sometimes education, and you get lifetime deals to all of these software products. And in exchange, the software developers get, A, an instant user base, and then B, a lot of feedback. And so I'm just going to pick this one because this actually looks like it's Google Ads related. Here's Keyword Hero. Bring your organic keywords and performance data back into Google Analytics. All they're doing is really kind of helping to make up for the not provided stuff, but it's $50 for life. And if you go check out Keyword Hero, let's go do that. I bet you it's $30 a month to start. Let's see how right I am. Well, I don't know. So whatever. It's just cool. Like we've gotten a lot of software that we actually use pretty consistently. The onboarding software that I use, Talify, came from AppSumo. We've got an HR portal that came from AppSumo. My team uses video recording software. I'm trying to remember the name. We just talked about it in our Slack channel. I can pull that up. Story Express or something. But all that came from AppSumo. I'm not an AppSumo affiliate. I'm not about to drop an affiliate link on you. I just think that, anytime there's a company or an organization out there that's giving really significant value, it makes a lot of sense for us to share them, promote them, etc. So if you haven't checked out AppSumo, do that. Just because I'm just, again, constantly blown away at everything we get. They had a video ask clone that I have lifetime access to now. I actually haven't deployed that. The one thing that I do that's shameful is I buy stuff on AppSumo and then I end up not using it just because it's like, oh my goodness, that's a great deal, but I'm never actually going to need it. I do the same thing at Costco. Like my wife makes fun of me because I'll come back with 800 gallons of butter. And she's like, when will we ever use that? And I'm like, but it was such a good deal. Right Sonic, this is a really cool one. So we paid for this. Right Sonic does AI powered copywriting, and what's insane about it is how well it works. So let's see if I can get in here so I can show y'all. I'm not a Right Sonic affiliate either. Just so y'all know, I will let you know if I ever try to push anything that we're an affiliate for. Testing for YouTube. So check this out. We're going to create, we tried the ad copy creator and it wasn't wonderful. What was the one that I really liked? Let's do AI article intros. So how to build a YouTube channel and get lots of subscribers. Whatever. Let's say that you just suck at generating things like that, and you're having a creative block or whatever. You drop in your blog title, and then these. Look at this. A computer did that. That's insane. And these are now a blog intro that somebody wrote. It's unbelievable. It's unfreaking believable. And you can go get Right Sonic for $60, lifetime deal. So I don't think it's actually going to write your blogs for you, but it just does a really good job at kind of getting the juices flowing. Yeah. So that's pro tip today. Not necessarily a Google Ads tip, But I think definitely a marketing tip. Some of these lifetime deals are really worth playing with. The one thing to be very aware of is a lot of these little software tools are not going to make it. So, and a lot of them are, I don't want to talk anybody out of it, but you'll see some of these folks like push out a lifetime deal and then their business model just doesn't survive. So, walk in eyes wide open. You're also getting something for $60. So, kind of 6 of one, half dozen of another. We've got some live viewers. So if you all have questions, comments, concerns, or confessions, hit me in the chat. I'm here to answer any questions that you have. We're in YouTube and in Facebook. So our Facebook community is entirely Shopify store owners. If you have questions about ads in Shopify, I noticed a ton of people were having issues with Merchant Center, some penalization. So I'm going to go try to track down somebody who's a thought leader on that space and see if they won't jump in and do a Facebook Live with us specifically on that topic. And, maybe even do a couple of hot seats if we're capable of doing that. We also, just so you know, we offer live audits of existing Google ad campaigns. You have to be spending $3,000 a month or more. And that's just because we need enough data to be able to audit. But if you're spending $3,000 a month or more, we will audit your campaign start to finish, as long as you're willing to allow that to happen on a recorded session. Now, I say live. It's not actually live to our subscriber base. We'll blur out your sensitive information. We're not going to blast out everything to the world. But the intention here is for us to be able to produce more valuable content for people. And we want people to be able to see the way that we do audits. It's pretty unique and proprietary. Our audit model started, we actually took the initial version from a white label vendor that we used to outsource some work to. And they had a good enough program. It wasn't bad, but it just, there's nothing about it that really inspired much in the way of confidence. It was more like a report card. It's like, you're bad here and here and here. And since then we've changed to something that's far more functional. And it leads to, actionable recommendations. So if you have any interest, reach out, hit us up on the website, sol8.com, sol8.com, and let us know you're interested in the live audit, and we'll get you all set up. Again, you have to be spending $3,000 a month. You have to have spent that for at least 90 days. And that's because without that, there's nothing for us to audit. There's no data. Yeah, I'm going to start trying to go live in LinkedIn too. I got to apply for the process apparently. But once that happens, if you're part of our LinkedIn community, you'll be able to see us there. Bohan's here. Thank God. What's up, Bohan? Hey, Costin, did you see that they're combining maximize conversions and target CPI and maximize conversion value with target? Yeah. So it's actually, they haven't changed anything. Let me see if I can find that article. They've just moved things around. I think it's more of a nomenclature issue. Do you know what I'm talking about, Bohan? And maybe let's make sure that you and I are talking about the same thing, because we're talking about something that happened maybe 2 weeks ago, correct? Because if we are, they were just changing the. Man, I'm not going to be able to find this article live. But I dug deep into it. There was a lot of clickbaity stuff about oh my goodness, we're losing more. But when you dug into it, here we go. Yeah, so let me know, how do I get here? Okay, cool. So this isn't the article, but this is good enough. What they did is they took maximize conversions and gave it an optional target CPA goal. So if you saw this, and there's Bohan with the article. Dude, how are you so on top of everything all the time? Super appreciate you. If you saw this and you freaked out, don't worry. You still have the same functionality. It's just nested. So, target ROAS is now nested under maximize conversion value, and target CPA is now nested under maximize conversions, which is fine. This could herald the coming of something. Here's what, usually I don't see Google consolidating things like this unless they plan on, unless they needed that real estate. So I'd be really interested in what it is that they plan on doing with that space. Why did they go and and clean that up, what the point of that was. Because, you have to imagine that all this stuff goes through like however many layers of compliance and, feasibility studies and user interface designers and whatever. So a change like this, it seems too nuanced to not mean something, further on the outset. But yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Bohan. I appreciate it. The thing that they actually, the thing that they did that I just shot a video on, and I don't know how long this has been around, the seasonality adjustments, I just stumbled upon via another article on something else. Google put out something on adjusted bidding features, and I'm actually going to shoot a video on this probably today, but they're adding top signals to additional reporting, which is going to be really helpful, I think. Top signals are funny because it's all the stuff that you lose when you go with automated bidding. It's all the stuff that you'd have manually. Well, we're getting some of it back. And then I don't know when seasonality adjustments rolled out, because none of these are date stamped, but I hadn't seen it before. Although in this article, which was released May 19th, said we made seasonality adjustments. So I'm curious, Bohan, if you've ever used seasonality adjustments before. I should probably ask my team because I haven't seen it, but maybe we've used it internally and I just don't know. But I've got a video coming, a YouTube video coming. And what's really cool about seasonality adjustments, and it's a stupid name, and I say that in the video. It shouldn't be seasonality adjustment. It should be event adjustment. But it allows you to tell Google, hey, for the next couple of days, and you don't want to do more than 7 according to them, we're going to have a change in conversions, which a change in conversion rate, that's really important nuance. So either conversions are going to go up or they're going to go down, but I kind of don't want you to pay attention to that. And the reason this is important is because if Google sees a massive spike in conversions, Google's going to get way more aggressive. And if you're, running an event, hey, you have a great promotion going on, whatever, you're doing something that has an expiration date, you actually don't want them to get too aggressive because that's going to change. And so I thought that was super cool. Yeah, we've got some more questions. Maher, how would you suggest this to appeal products that are approved but not for dynamic remarketing? The vitamin and supplement space. We've tried everything. Yeah, so that's the problem. Anything in the health space, and it's actually health and finance. The finance is a little bit easier, but anything in the health space from a marketing perspective, Google is terrified of policy or privacy violations. You can't insinuate that you know anything about somebody's health situation. And so, if somebody has like fibromyalgia, and you have something that helps treat that, if they're remarketed with that product, you're telling them that you know that they have fibromyalgia. So in most cases, you can't. And we've dealt with a lot of supplement companies that were actually really successful via smart shopping. One was in Australia. He kept running out of product, though. He ended up having to just kind of shut it off. Yeah, and dynamic remarketing from an ailment perspective, it's just too close to home. Because if you can imagine somebody else like jumps on their computer or they're at work or whatever, and now all of a sudden other people know, specific and hypersensitive and private information about them. So I hate to like just throw up a wall in front of you and say you can't. I'll tell you that I haven't done it. We've tend to kind of sort of live in those lines. Meyer's saying, but even for something like protein powder and collagen, I'm having trouble. That's interesting. I'm trying to think about what we did for him. We had a client who did supplements, and I don't think we had any problems. But it was like maybe 2 years ago. So what I would do there, Maher, is I'd see if there are specific terms in the description, the product description or title, that are making Google feel that these are something that might signal an ailment. Collagen could. So like I have Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune disorder, and I've been prescribed collagen. So I think anything that could be prescriptive, Google might, and that's what's really sucks about Google is they have this big long list of opaque things that you can and can't do, and they don't tell you what they are. But anything that might be prescriptive, I bet you Google's like, yeah, we're not going to do this. But with protein powder, that feels like something you should be able to get away with. Oh, you know what we were doing? We were doing a meal replacement with this gentleman. He had like, things along those lines. And I'm pretty sure we didn't have any issues. I'll check with the team on that for you. What's next? Kevin, related to TCPN, T-ROAS, and 3X, John made completely new search campaigns using TCPA bidding strategy It works well. I've always thought TCP/AT rows only work if campaign has enough conversion data. Yeah, so Kevin, that's why what John said is don't add a target ROAS for as long as you can. And the analogy that he's used in the past that I really like is you need, if you picture you're in a room and let's say that you don't know the size of the room and you want to determine the volume of the room, and you've got a cool little bot that'll do that by bouncing off the walls. Well, if you add a TROAS, what you're doing is you're putting it in a box. So now you don't know how big that room is. You need to let the little bot out of the box and let it bounce off the walls, even though you're not necessarily getting a ROAS that's viable for your business, and then slowly kind of apply a target ROAS when you're ready. So you want to let it run sans TROAS for as long as you can without putting a ceiling on it. Because in the very beginning, the way to think about any ad campaign is you're buying data. So, everybody goes to Google and they're like, oh, I'm going to go get customers. Well, for the first 90 days, you're buying data. You're going to see how big the competitive ecosystem is. You're going to see how many people are competing against it, what they're spending, what they're potentially willing to spend. The other thing that's interesting, when you begin to spend into an ecosystem, there's something that I would call self-imposed inflation. You don't get to see what the ecosystem looked like without you. Because once you're added, you influence that ecosystem. So what you're spending influences what other people are spending and where they rank. And so many people are using automated adjustments. Like, if I'm not at the top of we have clients that are like that. I need to be number one all the time. And in my mind, I'm like, no, you don't. But if you end up trying to play that game and you have enough people that are playing it, there's just this spiral up that ends up being a race to the bottom. So you want to capture as much data as you possibly can, and then use that data in order to inform where you're strategically going to place things like TROAS. I hope that was helpful, Kevin. Let me know if there's any more to that question. Declan says, is it okay to start a smart shopping campaign with a target ROAS on account with no previous shopping campaigns ran? 80% of traffic was coming from branded search. No, Declan, same thing that I just said to Kevin. You want to make sure that you don't apply TROAS for those reasons. And I'm pretty sure Google's literature says otherwise, but we can tell you after running, I don't even know how many, keep the TROAS off, because it's gonna let the machine learn. And you go for as long as you can. And then when you apply a target ROAS, the thing that you're going to notice is the higher your target ROAS, the lower your sales. Now it's kind of this, hopefully you can find a point of stasis to where that really works for you. And then there are ways actually to kind of expand the market, which is pretty cool too. But don't be too aggressive with the TROAS on the front end. Again, first 90 days, you're buying data. Mahir says, how come you talk so highly about lifestyle images as a way for people to want to buy, and yet Google only allows white background? I think if you're using dynamic remarketing, Google's going to pull together whatever it wants in, I think, really functional ways. Lifestyle images are the highest performing type of media for outbound display. And to Mahir's point, there's some compliance requirements that you have to contend with, but they're not like insurmountable. But the reason is because if you just see a product, like if you just see, I've got these little blue light filter glasses. So if you see the blue light filter glasses just sitting there, that's a very different thing than if you see them with a human being and they have the blue light filter glasses on them. There's, like $1 billion studies done on the dopamine receptors in your brain that fire anytime a human being makes eye contact with you. There's, connections, empathy, depending on who the person is, you might be inspired. So you want to, and then the other thing to think about too, like when we just ran through the 3X Shopify challenge, and I had so many clients who sell stuff that if it's not in use, you don't know what it is. Like one of our members, I shouldn't have said clients, I meant members, but one of our members, I forgot exactly what it was. I think it might've been like a bath bomb. It looked like a germ. It looked like this fuzzy, random ball. And so using lifestyle images ends up helping for outbound display. So I think what you're referring to, Mahir, is product images for Google's product feed, but that's not what smart shopping is heavily reliant on. Let me know if I'm misunderstanding. American Troy, following here from Pedro Dale's crowd. What up? Or you said tribe. Even though you said no Democrats in your monastery school ads, my first challenge had 316 people in it. Thanks to your Facebook ad trading. Yeah, so just so nobody thinks that I was being, I wasn't drawing political lines. I was trying to make the point that there are ways for you to identify a specific avatar and then try to lean into that avatar using interest-based segmentation that's intrinsically qualified. So the example that I gave was, imagine that you're going after a conservative audience and you wanted to target a conservative audience. You're going to have a tough time excluding people based off of political preference. And actually, in some instances, you can just do that outright. But what you could do is you could find things that you know a liberal audience would be interested in and then use those in your exclude, and vice versa. So I wasn't bashing Democrats, but yeah, it's interesting the way that you can kind of slice and dice as you're building your ad campaign. And that was for Facebook, incidentally. I do a lot of private coaching on Facebook. It's honestly because we're good at it, but we don't run Facebook ads as an agency at all because it's an impossible product to scale, and I hate Facebook from a compliance perspective. They're a freaking nightmare. Maher says, in addition to the previous question, almost 40% of products are not approved for Google Dynamic Remarketing, and we're only using Smart Shopping. Aren't my campaigns handicapped? Yes. If 40% of your products aren't approved, I have a feeling you've got a feed issue. Maher, are you using a data feed management solution like Data Feed Watch? If not, they gave us 2 months free as part of our last challenge. I'm trying to figure out where that link exists. But I'd go sign up for Data Feed Watch because I have a feeling they'd help at least begin to diagnose. And Bohan just says, Maher, you should have lifestyle images for non-primary images. First images needs to be on a white background. Our Google Ads account is suspended for circumventing system policy. Yeah, that's rough. I'm not sure what I did wrong. We have 11 disapproved items on Merchant Center. Is that it? What do you do moving forward? No, I don't think disapproved items are going to get you suspended for circumventing systems policy. I think what you need to look at is your T's and C's. Make sure that you have a privacy policy in place, shipping policy, return policy. Make sure that these are really important. Make sure that your shipping rates actually match what's happening inside of your site. This is important for anybody who has an active feed if you're porting in other people's data and information. Because if you say, shipping's $4.99 and shipping ends up being $5, instant shutdown from Google. I've seen this on behalf of another client. Same thing with tax rates. And that's hard because tax and shipping changes all the time. It fluctuates. You have to figure out where to go to get that information to make sure that it's active. It's another reason to have a data feed tool. Bohan, go to Amazon, find the top selling products in your category and see images they're using. They do a ton of split testing to figure out what images help sell the product. Yeah, and y'all, Amazon is like the gold standard. The gold standard of all things e-commerce. Their product titles and descriptions, their imagery, the way that they format content, descriptions, bullet points. Like everything that those people do is dialed in, and it's because Amazon is such a dogfight. It's truly like the best vendor gets 95% of the purchases, and then everybody else gets almost nothing. And so you get to see the cream rise to the top really quickly. And then Amazon comes in and starts producing those products themselves, and then they put that vendor out of business, which is a true story, by the way. So be careful with Amazon if you're an Amazon vendor. Maher saying, so I can change the second image to a lifestyle image so remarketing can use it and keep the main image white in the background. Yes, I'm kind of curious why you're running into the issue that you're running into, to be honest with you, because let me go back and read your comments. I want to see if that was the reason for the disapproval or if this is a different topic. Sorry, I got a little bit distracted. Kevin just answered that for you. There we go. Meyer says, using Simprosys apps as our data feed provider and having a feeling large percentage of our products are disapproved for dynamic remarketing since we're online health food store. Could be. I haven't heard of Simprosys, so I don't know if they're good. And if you don't think it's a data feed issue, then that's okay. But 40% of your products being disapproved, that feels really steep to me, especially if you're not all. I understand health food, but health food shouldn't be disapproved. Again, unless there's something diagnostic about it. Kevin, does dynamic search ads always outperform broad search and always on par with smart shopping? No, not always. DSA is really great if you have awesome on-site content. So if the content on your site is robust and descriptive, then what I like about DSA is it fills in the gaps. So because you should be running, general search with keywords that are applicable. It's not always your profit center, but it's what feeds smart shopping. And then, of course, you're running smart shopping. And then DSA, smart shopping is reactive. So smart shopping is going to react to the people that are currently purchasing from you. What's really interesting about smart shopping is anytime you introduce a new audience, smart shopping grows. So like, let's say that you're running a smart shopping campaign based off of the conversion events that you're getting from your existing traffic. And then it's, it's this big. And then you include, like, you turn on Facebook ads. What we've noticed is smart shopping expands a little bit because you're expanding the ecosystem. Smart shopping, interestingly, and this is my way of thinking about it, so I could be wrong, but we're trying to put AI in a box here. Smart shopping is more about the consumer than it is about the product. It is still about the product, of course, but it's looking for the common denominators and purchase intention from people. So smart shopping is looking for people. DSA is cool because it will actually feed smart shopping. So you can use DSA in order to bring more people to the fold, and it fills in the gaps on things that you're missing. So you might notice that, from a search ads perspective, there are certain keywords that maybe you should have been bidding on or couldn't even necessarily know to bid on, but Google thinks you're applicable for. DSA will position you in front of those prospects. And then if it catalyzes purchases, you'll notice that those purchases will also feed smart shopping. The disapprovals are for violation of shopping ads policy. What was that to, Maher? Chris, thoughts on using CPC limits on target CPA? Using portfolio strategy. I feel like this is telling Google my threshold for pain and they take me for a ride. Yeah, you wouldn't be the only one who's... Google is definitely there to maximize profitability. The problem, and taking that a step forward, Chris, what Google's trying to do, this is why Google wants to know what your cost per acquisition is from a customer perspective. Google actually wants to know what your margins are. If you think about the ecosystem that Google's building, if everybody's on automated bidding and Google knows what everybody makes, Google could algorithmically maximize the efficiency of its own inventory. So it could say, all right, I've got Chris, Maher, Kevin, and Bohan. All of them want a piece of this. I know what they're willing to spend. I know what they make. I know how much inventory I have. And instead of building an auction that allows for more of a competitive market, they start to dole out the inventory in accordance with the advertisers' both spend and profitability, maximized to their ultimate spend threshold per your point. Now, that would be like the epitome of price fixing and antitrust. But my question, and this is kind of a philosophical conversation that I've had with some of my buddies, is how would we ever know? How would you ever? You'd need a whistleblower. Like, you would never, ever, ever, ever know. So there's a lot of information that we give Google that, I just look at it and I'm like, man, we're just feeding them everything about our business and they can absolutely use this against us. But on some levels, it's, while you're still profitable, I think you might build in some margin for error, but I feel the exact same way about T-ROAS. You just gave Google your margins basically. And if you want to pad it, that's fine, but then you lose access to certain amounts of traffic and visibility. So yeah, it's a really good question. And I appreciate the thoughtfulness. I'm getting less and less naive as I get older. I used to think that, there's no way that a $1 trillion company would do that. There's just too much at stake. But man, I've just seen too many, what Facebook does is insane. All the stuff that Facebook does. And honestly, Google too, Google has minimum bid thresholds. Most people don't know this. Google has minimum bid thresholds to where if nobody else is bidding on a keyword, Google still requires a certain minimum. And they refer to, I wish I had the documentation in front of me because the language is so brilliantly written. But, they refer to something to the effect of protecting their ecosystem or, their users and making sure that, certain quality is upheld or whatever. But basically, you took an auction, which by definition is supposed to be a market set rate, and you put minimum pricing on it, which forces the price of everything else up, which is frustrating. It's frustrating to see. So stuff like that. That's price fixing in a lot of ways. So yeah, I didn't mean to just hop on a soapbox. And that's the half hour, y'all. I really appreciate everybody that shows up live. Y'all are amazing. Thanks for all the questions. I hope I answered them. I feel like, Maher, I kind of gave you a ride. I'm sorry. That wasn't, there's just more to diagnose than I think is possible to answer on a call like this. So forgive me for being a little bit in the way of nebulous or non-committal. But thank you for showing up. And don't forget, we do this every Monday. It's at 9:30 a.m. Arizona time. Every Friday, it's at 9 a.m. Arizona time. And yeah, y'all are awesome. Really appreciate all the subscribers. I'll